Several days ago, Sayadaw spoke about 4 points that cause the mind that is free of fault, the kusala citta, wholesome consciousness, to arise. And Sayadaw explained this in terms of theory and practice. When encountering an enticing, greed-arousing sight or sound, smell, taste, touch, or any type of mental object, when encountering any one of the 6 kinds of objects, especially the first 5, the 5 sense pleasures, we're always encountering these. When we encounter a greed-arousing sense object, how is it that kusala arises, a wholesome mind state arises, instead of an unwholesome mind state? And Sayadaw explained what is said in the text, that this is due to 4 points. And Sayadaw explained this in terms of theory and practice. He believes that the yogis can remember these. And for those who listened attentively at the Dhamma talk, they should have been able to follow what was said. And if not, then of course they wouldn't be able to remember. So in the wholesome mind, kusala citta, or wholesome mind consciousness, knowledge is present at times, and this is called jnana sampayota. This is the wholesome mind that occurs together with knowledge, connected with knowledge. It's not separate from jnana or knowledge. Why is it that this wholesome mind occurs together with knowledge? This is explained in the commentary to the Abhidhamma, and Sayadaw will explain this today. Four points are mentioned in the commentary, and the first is kamato. In this life, a wholesome mind together with knowledge arises because we did good deeds in the past. So this is the first cause for knowledge to arise together with the wholesome mind. The second cause is upapatito. That means that one lived in a realm that was free of anger, dosa. And the third one is indriya paripakato. This means that the controlling faculties, called the indriyas, have reached maturity. And the fourth is kilesa duribhava. This means that the kilesas have been distanced. So these are the 4 causes according to the commentary. So among these 4 points, the first, kamato, that means that one's physical, verbal, and mental behavior is clean. Or, in other words, it means that in one's past lives, one did good deeds with the aim of becoming a wise person. Now, whoever it is, male or female, we all may have a skill. This is called in Pali sepayatana. In the past, people used skills like training elephants or horses. And today, because we live in an industrial, technological period, these might be mechanical or technical skills. Skills with which one can make a living. Farming, raising cows. Of course, with raising animals, some raise them in order to eat meat, but other people raise them to get dairy products. So this group of what skills is called kamayatana. And then vejatana. That means that in the past, people had skills like based on the Vedas, based on the Hindu texts. And with these skills, it's possible to say, what do people need to do to be healthy? Or one can predict the future with astrology. And so these skills, all these types of skills don't harm others. And so teaching these skills is a cause for teaching people the means to make a living that does not harm others is the basis, one of the bases for, in the present life, having wholesome mind arise together with knowledge. So this means that, first of all, one learns a skill, and then, if others need to know it, one teaches them. One teaches not because one wants material gain from the student. One doesn't want presents, and one doesn't look for fame or glory or a name. One just has the wish that may this person know the skill that I know. So teaching with this attitude, having taught like this in the past, in the present life, it's said that every time the wholesome mind arises, it occurs together with knowledge. And also ways that we can help, not by teaching, but by helping, giving our skill in support of something, working to help. This also is a cause for the kusala mind, together with knowledge, to arise. Now in the world there's a whole variety of ways that we can make a living, a variety of skills. And here Sayadawji is only speaking about ways of making a living that do not harm others. Making weapons, far range, near range, bombs, atom bombs, hydrogen bombs, planes that carry weapons, and so on. Building these types of things is not part of what he means by a skill that can help bring about knowledge in one's life. This type of kusala, wholesome mind state connected with knowledge, doesn't come about through it being involved in teaching skills that cause harm. One has to understand this. However, in terms of the world, countries need to protect themselves. A people needs to protect themselves, and for that purpose, they have weapons. And this is the responsibility, the social responsibility of countries in the world to protect themselves from violence. However, in terms of Dhamma, this is an unwholesome activity. And then, if one, another way that knowledge, another cause for knowledge to develop is doing things like inviting someone, a person who is practiced according to the method of practice, and who can speak about the Dhamma, who can teach others how to meditate, inviting such a person to give a talk, or holding a retreat where that person can teach. And not doing this because one wants to be famous, but doing it because one wants to develop one's own physical, verbal, and mental purity, and one wants other people to be able to do so too. Also, so inviting someone to speak and paying respects to them in an appropriate way. Also, arranging for people to speak about health, how people can, what are good health practices, how can people prevent or cure disease. Helping others to learn these things too are cause for knowledge to develop. And another cause for knowledge to develop is that when one does a good deed of various types, one makes the aspiration, the wish, that in my future lifetimes, may this be the cause for me to become wise. Buddhists like Sayadaw believe that as long as the causes are present for another lifetime to come, that another lifetime will follow this one. As long as the causes for a new life are present, future lifetimes will exist. So this cause for knowledge to arise is that when one does various types of good, such as generosity, giving, one makes the aspiration, may this good act of mine be a cause for me to become wise in my future lifetimes. And a person who does good deeds and makes that type of aspiration or wish, for them, when kusala, wholesome mind, occurs, it occurs together with knowledge. And then the next cause for knowledge to arise is having been in a realm, having lived in a realm that is free of anger. For such beings, the wholesome mind occurs together with knowledge. So when someone practices the worldly jhanas, the worldly absorptions, at the end of that life they go to, they are born in the Brahma world. And in that world, there's no anger, there's no dosa. Even though one is still a putujana, one hasn't eliminated any of the kilesas from one's being. But when one is in that realm, even if an object that could arouse anger or could arouse greed is encountered, these mental qualities don't occur. Greed and anger just simply do not occur in that realm. This is true. People who don't get angry, who can be patient, they're peaceful. This quality of anger and the qualities of greed, they tend to dull one's knowledge. So both of these, anger and greed, how should I say? I forget how Sayadaw said it, but they're very detrimental to our knowledge. So if you think about what it's like when someone has a lot of anger, it hardly takes anything for a person with a lot of anger to get angry. It doesn't take much to arouse their anger. And such a person, they don't tend to have much knowledge. If that person speaks, they aren't able to consider, is this beneficial or not? So, and they can't consider, is something suitable or not? Should I say it or not? So the person doesn't have that type of knowledge. Without that type of knowledge, one transgresses. One acts on one's extreme greed or extreme anger. And therefore one is at fault, oneself, and one harms those who are around us. So by committing acts like either being violent against another person or committing rape or adultery, the extreme greed and anger are very, very bad. Although Sayadaw speaks about the beings in the Brahma world, the yogis who are meditating now, always making effort to observe the object so that sati sticks to it. When the mindfulness is firm, then laziness and the other kilesas don't have any chance to arise. So the yogis make effort, sati sticks to the object, and energy develops. So when the sati is firm, then the kilesas aren't accepted. Sati protects the mind and makes it secure from the kilesas. So the mind falls collectedly on the object to the extent that sati is firm. And then one is free of sense desire, kama chanda, the desire to see something good, hear something good, smell, taste, touch something good. And also one is free of the desire to harm others, to destroy others. One is free of these. So there's no movement due to lobha and dosa. One who dwells like this, first of all, sukha, or peaceful happiness, arises. And then later on in the practice, equanimity arises. One's mind is balanced and very subtle. And one lives like this most of the time, in the practice. One experiences this most of the time. This is happy and peaceful. And when yogis like this, they listen to the Dhamma, they hear every word. And when they practice, they apply it, and their knowledge grows quickly. So it's said that mindfulness occurs slowly, but for these beings, they gain special knowledge quickly. So that's said about the Brahmas, but when the yogis are practicing and sukha, or peaceful happiness, occurs, this is like what the Brahmas experience. And later, when one reaches the stage of equanimity towards all formations, sankhara-upekkha jnana, this is very peaceful, and there's no movement due to raga or dosa. And if you reach that stage, you just try to make your mind become unwholesome. Just try to get your mind to go to an unwholesome object. It won't do it. Or if it goes, it will come right back like a boomerang. So at that stage, one's mind is just like that of a Brahmas. And this is guaranteed that this can happen through the practice. So in the Brahma world, there's raga and dosa are not accepted in the Brahma world. And for the Brahmas, every time the wholesome mind occurs, it occurs together with knowledge. When yogis experience the higher stages of knowledge in the Vipassana practice, they experience peace, and equanimity. And they come to know very subtle things. Their mind becomes very subtle. So it's said in the text directly that beings in the Brahma world, because they are free of raga and dosa, the kusala mind, wholesome mind, always occurs together with knowledge. And although the yogis are not Brahmas, when sukha and upekkha arise, at this time too, the wholesome mind is always together with knowledge. So now, since Sayadaw has explained the second cause for knowledge to arise, now he's going to explain the third according to the commentaries. And this is Indriya Paripakato. So this is combined with of two words, Indriya. That means faculty. It means the ruling faculty or governing faculty. So these to rule means to make others. They can. When one faculty can rule, it will make the others calm. And when one can control oneself, when one has a mastery over oneself, then one can rule effectively over others. And when knowledge is there, one can rule with knowledge. So in this, Sayadaw is talking about the maturity of knowledge. Paripaka means maturity. And this means that when one's wisdom becomes mature or ripe, then this is cause for kusala to occur together with knowledge. So this means that when one's wisdom is ripe, then one knows what is beneficial and what is not. One knows what is suitable or not. One has to, if one is going to rule, then one has to have morality, sila. And one's mind must be controlled and calm. And one's knowledge should be mature. So one should understand that in order to be a ruler or leader, one should have these qualities. So for us, this maturity of one's controlling faculties, this means when one's wisdom or panya is mature, the faculty of panya. So when does this mature? When people are between age 40 and 50, this is when knowledge matures. It becomes ripe. This wisdom faculty becomes ripe at that time in humans' lifetimes. So for the most part, a person of between age 40 and 50, when the wholesome mind arises, it occurs together with knowledge. Sayadaw has been speaking in terms of both theory and practice. So even those who don't have learning, don't have an education, become able to reflect. They tend to become able to reflect at between the age of 40 and 50. They gain the ability to reflect and to consider. For one who has learning already and who has a wholesome environment, at this age, one's reflective ability becomes quite good, and at that age, this is called the age of maturity of wisdom. For such a person, when their mind is kusala, it is occurring together with knowledge most of the time. For someone who initially has learning and is in a good, wholesome environment. But if one's environment is not wholesome, for example, if one lives in a community of hunters, if one's a hunter, one's livelihood isn't wholesome. So even though one reaches the age of maturity of wisdom, the age between 40 and 50, the wholesome mind won't arise. Without the wholesome mind arising, there won't be any knowledge. So if one's environment is not wholesome, you can think of many settings. So Sayadaw just mentioned that either hunting or other similar unwholesome livelihoods. In that case, although one's at the age when one's wisdom would be mature, one's not in an environment where the wholesome mind would occur. And because of that, the knowledge will also not occur. And because this is such a prevalent thing in the world, there are many, many people in the world who lack knowledge because of being in an unwholesome environment. So the last cause for knowledge to arise is kilesa duribhavato. In that phrase, kilesa just means kilesa, the mental defilements. There's wanting, greed, anger, hatred, not knowing. So greed, anger, and not knowing, these are the roots of unwholesomeness. These need to be distanced. We need to separate ourselves from them. And when that happens, when the wholesome mind occurs, it'll be together with knowledge. So in the third cause, indriya paripakato, due to the maturity of one's wisdom faculty, the wholesome mind occurs together with knowledge. This is for people who are between 40 and 50 years of age. So this seems to be saying that those who are under 40, their wisdom faculty is not yet mature. And so these people under 40, well, they may be children or teenagers. A child will have a child's mind. A teenager will have a teenager's mind. A young adult in their 20s will have a young adult's mind. And so they may spend their time with the playthings that people of those ages like. And they don't give time to developing wisdom during the younger ages. And thus they're missing a chance. They're missing the chance to develop knowledge. So when kusala occurs, it doesn't occur with knowledge. But if they distance the kilesas, if people of under 40 will distance the kilesas, then in the wholesome mind that occurs, knowledge will be there. So people who are under 40 have a good chance to gain knowledge. They just need to make effort. So how to distance the kilesas? Should we do it with generosity? Or should we do it with morality? Should we do it with going on a pilgrimage to see pagodas? Or listening to this talk and that? So there are many questions regarding this. And so Sayadaw will talk tomorrow about how to distance the kilesas in theory and practice. That's all for today. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.